All right, happy World Renowned Wednesday. It is that time for us to go a little further on our journey to being world renowned, to be business owners, entrepreneurs, salespeople of the highest caliber. And so everything that we have done up to this point has gotten us into a fantastic place. And I've had some of you asking, say, Neil, well, what's the most important? Is it going to be building the brand? Is it getting a CRM? Is it me figuring out my story? And so all of that is great. All of that is necessary. But at the end of the day, there's something that is vitally important. And vitally important means that without this, that thing that we have, the business that we have, our brokerages, our lifestyles, they fail without this thing. And end of the day, that is this thing right here called sales, right? So, and that's where we're going to look today. That's where we're going to spend some time, because the reality is that with no sales, you don't experience any success. And I hope that hasn't been lost in our time together over these past few weeks. And so we're going to look at this idea of how to get great at sales, maybe some ideas that are new to you. More than likely, it's just going to be another exposure. You're going to be re-exposed, reminded of some ideas that you have picked up along the way. But this is that real world stuff that for almost 2 decades I have been implementing, and as a result we've been having some fantastic results. And so this is where I want you all to dive in, take some notes. As a reminder, you are going to get this playback at the end of the night so that you all can start implementing. Remember, thoughts to action, implement, execute. That's going to be the big difference from the mediocre many and the elite few. So here's where we're going to begin. We're going to begin, or should I say continue, with an idea or something that you've probably heard and that you're probably familiar with, Pareto's principle, right? And this is that 80-20 rule as we hear it. Now, I do not want you to get stuck on the number 80-20. The idea, if you aren't familiar with the Pareto principle, is that 80% of the results come from 20% of the activities. Now, don't get stuck on the number, because here's what we've learned. We've learned that the reality, it could be 90% of the results come from 10% of the activity. It could be 60% of the results come from 20% of the activity. So I don't want you to get stuck on the number. What I want you to grab a hold of tonight as a salesperson, entrepreneur, small business owner, I want you to understand the fact. Now, this is a fact. All activities do not yield the same ROI or return on investment. So whether it's 80-20, 80-30, we know that if we do the right 20 or 10, we're going to get a bigger return on that investment. So our job is to make sure that our, whatever this is, whether it's 20 or 10%, that we're doing the right things so that we can get more sales, so that we can get more return on our time, energy, dollar invested. And here's where I want to ask you all, do you know what your return on the investment of your time, energy, resources, financial resources are? If not, it goes back to one of our previous sessions where we talked about making sure you know your numbers. It is not enough as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, for $1 to get a $1 return, right? Because at that point we've lost. Why? Because there's time, energy, effort, peace of mind, mental capital that we've spent. It might not be enough for $1 spent to get $2 in return. I don't know. That's totally up to you as a business owner, okay? What we do have to do, we have to figure out which activities we're doing that are going to yield our highest DPA or IPA. Okay, and so as a business owner tonight, I want to ask you, one, are you familiar with your top dollar producing activities or income producing activities? In real estate, there are only 3 to 5 income producing or dollar producing activities. In sales, there are only 3 to 5 IPAs and VPAs. Now, when I say IPA, I'm not talking about a craft beer, right? I'm talking about the stuff that we're here for and why we care. Here's what I'm going to break it down really simple. I told you my skill, my goal is to make the complex simple enough for us to understand and for us to implement. So these are our dollar producing and income producing activities. Prospecting. I know you all are tired of Neil talking about prospect. Without enough leads, our business does what? It dies, right? Without enough leads, we can't have enough sales. And without enough sales, there's no success. That's when our accountants, our bookkeepers, our family, our friends, our loved ones start looking at us like, I thought you were a salesperson, right? How come you aren't making any sales? So number one, prospecting. Number two, presenting. I need you to get good at prospecting and presenting. And then the last one is closing. Now, the good news is we're going to look at all of this stuff tonight in just small increments, and then we'll build this out a little bit later in some additional training that I'm going to send to you all, and that's going to be on demand. So prospecting, presenting, and closing, I already have some content recorded. I'm going to send that to as a link to you all so that you all don't have to get it all here tonight, because what I care about, I want you to grasp the ideas, and then I want you to go in and actually do the implementation and execution work. So the return on investment, we talk about not all activities are created equal. The ones that I need your 20 or your 10% that I really want you focused on is going to be prospecting, presenting, and closing. For us, we might say prospecting, consulting, and closing. Okay, so there is a core set of skills that we must master. And so if we master prospecting, presenting, and closing, we're going to find that we have enough sales to be successful. And there is this idea that if you aren't doing numbers, if you aren't doing a big sales volume, that you're a failure. I don't care about the sales volume. What I care about is you having a goal, you reaching your goal, and making sure that your goal is significant enough to cover your overhead and to live the life that you want to live, to run a business and to have a legacy that is one that you can be proud of. Because in this thing, in sales, real estate, entertainment, whatever it is, I do know that there is enough for us, and we're skilled enough to get our unfair share of the pie. So let me ask you, if I ask you what your highest dollar producing activity is, would you say it's one of these three: prospecting, presenting, or closing? If not, we're going to look at some activities tonight that will be beneficial in helping increase the effectiveness of those three. And it's going to say, all right, now we can really focus on our 20% of activities or 10% of activities that's going to yield the highest return. So I will give you all an example. For me, activities like this right here, hanging out with you all, recording videos, this is part of my 20% that yields the biggest return. Me doing face-to-face classes where there's one-to-many opportunities is part of my 20%. So I want you all to see real world from the very beginning. I told you this would be like a case study. So me right now, this is a mixture of my prospecting and presenting. Okay, so my prospecting and my consulting is happening right now for small business owners. If I were doing this in real estate, it would be where I would do maybe a home buyer seminar, a virtual home buyer seminar, where I could do prospecting and presenting at the same time. So I want you all thinking, how can you maximize this 20 by multiplying it, doing it to a one-to-many or in a one-to-many environment? And I mentioned that not all activities yield the same results. Well, here's where I must give us some sobering and exciting news. Not all salespeople yield the same results. Not all business owners or brokerages yield the same results. And the reason I say sobering and exciting, at any moment we can decide to take the proper actions to elevate ourselves into that upper echelon of competitors, of providers or service individuals. And so I encourage you with that piece right here. Now, here's where I do want you all to, when we look at this, when we talk about your highest dollar producing activity or the income producing activity, before you can figure out how to switch this lever and make it work for you, there's something vitally important for you to do. And that is for you to decide to become one of the top X% in your industry or in your location. I believe that all of us should strive to be in the top 20%, right? So if we are in the top 20% in our industry, that's going to mean we're going to hold ourselves accountable. We're not going to do what the other 80% are doing. We're going to get in and focus on what are the best of the best in our region or our niche, or maybe it's going to be in our industry, maybe your association. You want to find out what the top 20% are doing, because they are going to be doing the things that the losers are not doing. They're going to be attending classes and online webinars on a Wednesday night, right? They're going to go in and actually implement some activities, maybe getting their CRMs in order, right? Coming in and making sure that they have all of the updated contracts prepared for August 17th, so that when these NAR settlement changes take effect, we're already ready to hit the ground running, right? And so I'm going to encourage you to go in, look at those pieces there. But here's something that is going to be important, necessary for us to win and for us to have more sales. We have to develop the winning edge, right? And so I want people, when they think about you and your business, I want them to say, she's edgy, he's edgy. They are going a little bit too far. I want you to have the winning edge. And here's what the winning edge is not. The winning edge is not intelligence, okay? We know intelligent people who are habitual losers, right? They just cannot get this thing down. They're smart as all get out, but they have nothing to show for it. Now, if you know that person, like know that person, don't be like, hey, I think Neil was talking about you tonight on World Renowned Wednesday. Don't y'all do that, okay? But we know intelligent people who do not have the winning edge. We know intelligent people who are unemployed and who are underachievers. The winning edge is not hard work. Now, if you're like me, you grew up in a family, you grew up in a neighborhood, in a community, well, what do they stress? Work hard, work hard. Hard work is the way to success. Well, I want to just unearth a truth to you or for you, that there are a lot of successful individuals. There are a lot of multi-millionaires and billionaires who have figured out the winning edge, and they don't work hard. Now, I'm not saying they're lazy, but they work smart. Okay, so they've implemented this idea of leverage. And the thing that's really frustrating for me, and maybe for you, do you know someone that's not as smart as you and doesn't work as hard as you work, and it seems that they just keep winning? I know plenty of those people, and I started looking at them. I'm like, hey, I'm definitely smarter than you. I work harder than you. You're a lot more successful than I am. The difference is I did not become envious or jealous. I became curious. I'm like, so what is it that you're doing? And here's what I found out. Here's what the winning edge is. So we're going to talk tonight about relationship selling in all of these things that we've already covered. The winning edge is right here. Friendly relationships with prospects, customers, and clients. That's it. The winning edge is, do you have the ability to enter into friendly relationships with prospects, customers, or clients? That's it. What do we know? We know this at a core, right? Meaning that even if we take business away from the calculation, we hang out, we're friends with people that we know, like, trust, that we have good relationships with. We will go to hell and back for someone that we like, when we will not cross the street. We will not take one step for someone that we despise, right? And so here's where we have to take human nature and just put it into this thing that we're doing called business, that we call sales. Okay, so here's what friendly relationships with prospects, customers, and clients looks like. It means, one, that we care about them, that we're going to leverage a few of our core traits and characteristics to make them want to do business with us. Here's what it really means. It means that we have to establish rapport and build high levels of trust. When was the last time that you took time in your business to establish rapport with a buyer, a seller, a prospect, client? When was the last time you took time to establish rapport with a colleague, with a, we call them cooperation, right, or competitors? When was the last time you took time to build rapport with the agent on the other side of the transaction, or the HR manager, or the event director, the education director that you're going to be working with? We have to build rapport and a high level of trust. If I don't trust you, I mean, I might, if I have to use you, I will, but it's going to be very transactional. So how much of our business goes into establishing rapport and building high levels of trust? This is where it's something that's vitally important that we really don't hear that much about and we don't pay that much attention to, but I really want us to look at this tonight, because we think that trust is all about the other person. Rapport is all about them, that they've done something wrong. Well, here's what the truth is. When I say I want you to establish rapport and build a high level of trust, I'm talking to you. Neil is talking to Neil. If I want to have a lot of sales and a lot of success, if I want my 20% of activities to yield 80% of my returns or 90% of my returns, I have to do some inner work, and the inner work begins with our personality. Okay, and here's what studies show from Yale and Chicago University. It says that personality is responsible for at least 85% or more of sales success. 85% of your sales success is going to be determined by your personality. That means if you want to be successful in sales, you have to like people, but more importantly, people have to like you. If they don't like you, if you turn people off, it's really hard to sell to people who don't like you. It's damn near impossible to sell to people who don't trust you. Okay, and so now this is where I'm going to encourage you all. Maybe you've done some type of personality assessment. Maybe you haven't, you've heard of it. I'm going to encourage you all. There are two types of personality assessments. And then the third one is a site that I use a lot, but the DISC, D-I-S-C. So the dominant, influence, supportive, and calculating. If you are unfamiliar with personality assessments, DISC, D-I-S-C, is one that's been popular. I know Tony Robbins uses it. I'm going to put a link in the email that I sent to you all for a free DISC assessment. Okay, I think DISC is cool. It's the one that I started with almost 20 years ago. So DISC is important. The other one that you might hear about is going to be the Myers-Briggs. Myers-Briggs is the second type of personality assessment where you can go in and figure out who you are, how you operate, what your strengths and weaknesses are. Now, here's the beautiful thing about personality assessments. It is not right or wrong. It's not going to tell you that you're dumb and that you should get out of real estate or out of sales. That's not what the purpose is. The purpose of personality assessments is to say, well, hey, here's who you are. Here's what your natural being is. This is your adaptive personality. This is where you would thrive. This might be an area where you would struggle, or you might want to put some extra work in. So me, I am very high on the DISC. I'm very high on the I, on the influencer, so I'm an ID. So I am an extrovert, if you all can't tell. I'm a dominant personality. My S and C are very low. Right now, supportive, can I? Yes. So my adaptive style, when I get into a room and there are a lot of D's and I's, I instantly turn into an S or C. Why? Because I know the room is lacking. So I will come in and say, hey, How can I help you? I'm not going to be an alpha, and I'm not going to be an entertainer in a room full of entertainers. I'm going to be a calculating or supportive individual in a room full of entertainers and ask them, hey, would you like me to get you a refill? Why? Because I'm going to stand out. However, in sales, we must know who we are first. So DISC, Myers-Briggs, fantastic types of personality assessments. The one that I have fallen in love with over the past 2 years, you see this 16P. It's called 16 Personalities. 16personalities.com. So 16personalities.com is and personalities plural. 16personalities.com. It is based on the Myers-Briggs. Okay, it's just a fantastic free place to go in. They make it more fun, entertaining to find out who you are. And some of you are going to be like, Neil, you definitely have at least 16 personalities, right? I wouldn't disagree with you. But what this does is now you start to see, well, how do I respond to conflict? And we're going to find out why knowing who we are is important in a moment, because you all can see I have a list of these basics that we want to master, but there are going to be some that a certain personality is absolutely going to hate, but we need to do them, or we need to hire for those positions if we're really going to get great at relationship selling. So DISC, D-I-S-C, Myers-Briggs, or 16personalities.com. I'm going to put links to all three of them in the follow-up email. You get to decide what you want to use. I'm going to encourage you to go in and do all three of them. Okay, so 16personalities.com, Myers-Briggs.org, and then the one for DISC, I'm going to give you a link to the Tony Robbins, and it's going to be free. Don't sign up, don't pay for anything, okay? Y'all don't join. Don't say, oh, I'm interested, let me dive in. We're not there yet, but here's what we want to do. We want to start looking at our own personality. Then we're going to look outward at our prospects, clients, and customers. So we need to know, am I dominant? Am I an influencer? Am I supportive or calculating? Then we can know how we respond with the other. The reason I like 16 personalities, let's say I am a consul. It's going to tell me how I respond to someone who is just like me versus the total opposite. How would I interact with someone who is more supportive? Well, number one, I need to slow down my tone or my speed, my rate of speech. I need to bring my tone down just a little bit. I can't be as animated as you all see me here. Right? And so now if I meet someone based on the way they dress, the way they shake my hand, the way they greet me, the tone of their email or their voicemail, in the first 30 to 45 seconds, I have a very good idea what personality style they have. So why am I doing this? So they can get to know me, like me, and trust me. We, for the most part, as human beings, we like ourselves. If I present myself to be just like you. Now, we are not doing this to be deceptive. We're doing this to be considerate. Okay? So I would be a bull in a china shop if I go in. If I'm talking loud, talking fast, moving a lot, and I'm in a room full of people who are like, oh my gosh, he is obnoxious. I'll give you all the perfect example. Most healthcare nurses or healthcare providers, whether it's going to be the support staff, we're talking about RNs, RNAs, those types of personalities are typically S personalities, supportive personalities. Doctors are typically D personalities. They are total opposite. Doctors walk into a room, do this, 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 this. The S, the RN or RNA, CNA, whatever they are, they're going to come in and say, well, here's what we need. How would you like me to do this? And then the doctor says, what? I don't care. Get it done. We need this done ASAP. Two totally different personalities. I know that the doctor needs to slow down, speak at a lower rate, and actually give concrete instructions to the S personality. I know the S personality actually needs to be louder, speak faster so that they can get the respect of the doctor. And so here's where it's wild. The doctor might say, get this done. We need this done ASAP. to get the doctor's respect and not to be subordinate. The nurse, the S personality might say, hey, I've got 10 other things, only 9 are going to get done. Which one do you want me to fall through the cracks? Right? And we might think that's being disrespectful. However, the D personality will be like, well, thank you for letting me know. Let's forget that one. Now, it takes a lot, but once you figure that out, same thing in sales. So we have to know our personality, and then we have to ask, what is the personality of the buyer, the seller, customer, client, prospect? When we walk into their home or when they come into our office, do they have a Chanel bag, Gucci? Are they wearing Prada shoes? Did they pull up in a big luxury car with emblems everywhere? If so, we start seeing there may be an I personality, a D personality. When they walked in or when I shook their hand, did their eyes drop? I know it might not be a self-esteem deal. It could just be their personality being an S, a supportive, more introverted. So this is going to help us when we start looking at personalities. So this is where we're going to look at this thing right here. Performance-based self-esteem. And this is why we must know our personality. So depending on your personality, your performance-based self-esteem is going to fluctuate at different rates. And here's what performance-based self-esteem is. And all of us have experience. And the moment I say it, you all are going to say, aha. So your self-esteem directly impacts your sales success. And your sales success directly impacts your self-esteem. Here's what I mean. When you do something fantastic, and I'm just talking about sales, but it could be maybe you did something that you said you were going to do. I'm going to wake up and exercise today. If you woke up and exercised this morning, what happens to your self-esteem and your confidence? It shoots up and you're like, yeah, baby, I'm rocking and rolling. Then you're going to say, well, since I did that, I might actually be able to clean the house today. Then you clean the house. Guess what? Self-esteem goes up even more. And so what's going to happen to the activities? We're calling them sales. The more your self-esteem, the higher your self-esteem goes up, the more you get done. The more you get done, the higher your self-esteem. Unfortunately, the converse is true as well, right? Hey, I'm going to wake up and exercise, and you sleep in. And then what happens? The phone rings, and then it's 6 o'clock in the evening, and you're still thinking, well, I didn't wake up and exercise. I did nothing else. I must be a loser. This is why I'm fat. This is why I'm out of shape. This is why my checking account is running low. Why? Because when our activity or sales success depletes and goes down, it's taking away our self-esteem. Now for D and I personalities, the sales success or the performance-based self-esteem isn't going to have as great an impact as it is for an S or C personality. So for me, I might wake up and fail for 5 hours straight. I didn't do this, didn't get this done. And you know what? I'm still going to be feeling good come 5 o'clock in the evening. I'll be like, ooh, there's still time. I can still get this stuff done. No, you can't, dude. Today was a loss, right? However, the S or a C personality might come in, have 1 or 2 victories, and say, man, I'm so far behind. I don't know how I'm going to get this done. So we really want to understand where and how we think, and we want to leverage performance-based self-esteem, okay? And here's how we do that. Relationship selling. And here's where we have been selling, or here's how we've been selling, I'm going to say for the past, I would say 100 years. For the past 100 years, it has been about me, the salesperson. I have a product, a service that I need to sell to you because I need to pay my bills. I want to take a trip. I need a new iPhone or Android phone, right? Go team Android. But whatever it is, it has been all about us. Now, when we look at relationship selling and we are building trust and establishing rapport, it becomes about the other side. It becomes about the customer, client, or prospect. And here's where we're going to look. This is our relationship selling matrix. There are only 4 major parts of it. The first one, building trust. And this is where most of our sales matrices or triangles, we're going to see the biggest at the bottom and it's going to go up. But here's what I want you all to think. I need 40% of your activities, 40% of your business activities. Remember, we talked about the Pareto principle, 80-20. In that 20, of that 20, 40% of your 20 needs to be focused on building trust. This is where I continue to remind you all, I need you to be published. Why? It's going to help build and establish trust. I need you writing note cards, ladies and gentlemen. I've got my stack of note cards that are going out this week right here on the edge of my desk. Why is that? Because I need to build trust. I need 40% of your activities solely focused on building trust. Okay, so of that 20%, that's going to yield 80% of our results. 40% needs to be building trust. This next piece is one that we as salespeople over the past 100 years have thought very little about, but now we are seeing when, remember, we want to sell like we buy, and here's what we buy. We buy what we need primarily, or what we believe we need. So we need to identify needs, the needs of our customer and client accurately. Can you accurately identify the needs of those that you're looking to service or work with? Once we build the trust, 30% of our time needs to be identifying the needs accurately. So some of the individuals who are on these calls or watch have said, Neil, I want to be in your coaching programs. Well, here's what I have said. I don't think you're ready yet. And it's not that they weren't ready. I have not been able to accurately identify their needs. I didn't know where they were with their business. I'm like, hey, well, let's do this first. Have you done this? Because I know that, yes, I've built trust. They think they want to work with me. But then I said, let's identify what you need to help you be successful, because my goal is not to put money in my pocket. My goal is to help you exceed your expectations so you feel like you won, and be willing to compensate me for that so you can go back and tell your friends, colleagues, peers, and then it's going to be a win-win, and that's what we'll talk about on this side. 40% building trust, 30% identify needs accurately, 70% of our sales process just in those two steps, and we have not asked for any money. We have not asked them to do anything for us. We have not even done a consultation or presentation yet, and 70% of our activity has build trust, identify needs, build trust, identify needs, establish rapport, identify needs. That's it. Then we come down here. Now we get into this 20%. This is where we're going to present our service, our product. This is where we're going to do our consultation. Only after you've built trust with someone, prospect, client, customer, after you've built trust, after you have a keen awareness of what it is they need, then we present our service. And we're not presenting what we want to sell. We're presenting, here's what you need to help you achieve your goal. They're totally different. I know what I want to sell. I know the products and the services that I have. If I don't build trust and if I don't identify the needs, then I'm going to be one of these infomercials. Hey, for $19.95, buy this right now. These agents who skip these first two steps, the entrepreneurs who skip these first two steps, come August 17th, they're going to be in trouble, right? They're already in trouble right now because they're saying, I don't know if this industry, I think the industry is tanking. No, you haven't built trust, right? You can be replaced by a website. You can be replaced by access to a lockbox without calling. You can be replaced by not needing you to fill out a contract or to see a home or even find a home. Build trust, identify needs, then we present our service. That's typically going to be through a presentation or a consultation. And we're doing this, we're presenting based on the information we got in the step prior. This is where we're saying, hey, well, after hearing what you need, I don't think you need to sell. I think that maybe you need to refi the home, or maybe you should lease this one out and then purchase another property after you've built up some more equity, right? Maybe you should lease this one and then rent, right? In real estate, you're like, Neil, you're telling me to pass up on the sale? Maybe, depending on what their needs are. And then we're going to present a service that they need. So if someone tells you what they need, and if you offer what they need, what can we comfortably do then? So 40, 30, 20, 90% of our sales process has happened right here. This is where we want to focus on that 90, because then we can come down here, the last step, after we have presented based on the needs of our customer, client, or prospect. Now we can confidently ask them to buy, right? We can come in and say, hey, based on the information that you shared, based on the conversations that we've had, I believe this service is what you need. I encourage you to buy. And so here's what asking to buy is. It doesn't mean, hey, so what would you like to do? No, we're going to ask them to take action. They have to take some type of action. We do not live in the land of obscurity. I need a yes or no. Indecision is a decision, ladies and gentlemen. So we want to ask our prospect, customer, or client to buy. And here's what I will tell you. If we focus on doing this right here, we no longer have a straight face. We're going to have a smile. A big difference, right? I know y'all like, man, he planned that out. Yes, I did. That was the whole reason I've been holding my marker. I don't even need the marker no more tonight. I just did that just to draw a smile. Okay, but check this out. If we focus doing it 40, 30, 20, 10, we're going to win. If that's our focus. Here's the problem though, ladies and gentlemen. In the past, we've spent 40 or 50% of our time asking our customers and clients to buy. We know that does not work. You've had someone, the moment you walk into the store, you went in and they say, hey, can I help you? What do we say? No, we're just looking. What are you looking for? I don't know yet. Or I'm just browsing. Why? Because we know the first thing they're going to do is ask us to buy. Then 30%, they're going to present. We do not like presentations as human beings. Why? Because we know that at the end of the presentation is going to come the sales pitch. It's going to be the rebuttals. And now they haven't even asked me what I care about. I helped my mom, my wife and I, we were in Alabama a few weeks ago, and we went to the Nissan dealership. And I don't know if you all have bought a new car. If you remember buying a car, it is one of the most dreaded experiences that anyone must endure, usually. However, we had James, who was a fantastic salesperson. He had been there for a number of years while my mom got her previous Nissan serviced. He was always building trust with my mother, saying, hey, I don't think you need to do this to your car. Maybe you can just get this service right here. It should help out. No, you don't need the premium whatever. I know you're on a budget. It's an older car. Just get the oil change. And so he's giving her advice. She decides, I think I'm ready to buy a new car. So of course we go back to James. James has a conversation with my mom during the entire maintenance years of her vehicle. He has identified the needs based on the conversation and the relationship that they built. So James said, Miss Oates, I believe based on what you said, here's what I'm presenting to you. Showed my mom a beautiful car online. And then my mom says, hey, I want it. And so my wife and we are there. And I said, hey, James, listen, I'm going to be in town for about 18 hours. I need this car at your dealership so my mom can purchase it. He didn't even have to ask my mom to buy, right? My mom was ready. And she was like, yep, I'm ready. And so we get the we get the car to the dealership. And James is asking questions still. Do you need this? Do you know how? He goes through, shows her how to work. And here's what the reality is. I, now living in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, I am going to buy my next car through James, right? And here's what I know. We're going to buy 2 cars for myself and my wife. Neither one of them are going to be a Nissan. However, James is going to find the vehicles for us, and then we're going to make sure that James gets credit for the sale. Why? Because he took care of my mom with the trust, with the rapport, identifying her needs. Then he presented hey, well, here's the card that I think based on what you said is going to be beneficial. And then he did not even have to ask her to buy. If we do it right, we're going to find ourselves in the same situation as James. If we do this process, if we focus on this top 90, that 10 is going to be a breeze. We're still going to have to do the 10, but it is going to be a breeze. Once again, as I said, where we've gotten it incorrect, we spend 40% of our time asking people to buy before we even make a presentation. And then we might present, but we're presenting what we want them to have, a scripted monologue, never asking for input, and then we definitely don't have any trust. So that's where we want to make sure that we're spending the bulk of our time. We're going to focus on building that trust and rapport. Here's where we're going to break this system, this relationship selling, down really quickly to find out where we're strong and where we are weak, ladies and gentlemen. So here we go. We already talked about those dollar producing activities or income producing activities. What are they? Prospecting, presenting or consulting, and closing the sale. Those are the big three. Now, as we break those three out, here's what I want you to consider. One, prospect, prospect, prospect. And this is where I believe, from the school that I have learned from for almost 20 years, prospecting is not cold calling. It is not door knocking. Prospecting is putting yourself out there so that the right people can find you. And typically that starts with building trust and rapport. It's very difficult, especially in 2024 or 25 or 26, or whenever you're watching this, to prospect where there is no relationship. So we prospect, build rapport and trust. Many of us, we have enough leads or prospects in our phones, in our database, in our CRM. We just haven't built the rapport and trust with them. If your family members, your friends, those people who are closest to you, if they don't think of you when it comes to real estate or sales in the service or industry that you're in, it's because of this right here. It's because they know you, they like you, but they don't trust you. And I understand. I've had family members who have purchased real estate not with me because they were like, that's Junior. I mean, Junior, we know him, we like him. But Junior, we know what he did when he was in 11th grade, right? We know what he did when he was in college, right? So they know me before I was licensed, before I became a national instructor. And so they like, yeah, we're going to go over here to JoJo, right? We don't know JoJo, but we trust JoJo because he has a big billboard and it says that he's number one, so he has to be number one. So we want to prospect, build rapport and trust. Then this is vitally important, one of those key areas for us. Once we prospect and build trust, the most important thing you have to do is identify the needs of them. We obsess over their needs. If they don't need it, if it's not important to them, if they don't want it, we don't care. Okay? Respectfully, we don't care. If it's going to be something that makes Neil look good or feel good, but it is a detriment or adds no value to them, it's of no importance in this sales process. So after we identify the needs, this is where we get back to the presenting and consulting, right? So we've taken this process here and now we're just breaking it down. So we're right here at the presenting and consulting, or consulting, however you want to look at it. Handling objections, the rebuttals. Do you know what someone is going to say when you ask them, because we got to ask them to buy. When we do that and we get an objection, do we have the tools in our toolbox? If someone says, man, the American dream of home ownership is dead, how are you going to respond? Is now a good time to buy? Is now a good time to sell? Why do I even need you as a sales professional, right? Can't I do this without you? All of those objections, you should already know how you're going to respond. If you don't know how you would respond, that just means that we haven't practiced enough. The good news is that we can practice, find a success partner that's going to help you in your presenting and consulting and handling objections. You might hear it as an accountability partner. I believe that we should be practicing twice as much as we are performing. If you have 3 or 4 buyer consultations or marketing consultations or listing consultations, you should be doing 8 to 10 practice sessions. That's why we have this thing called Zoom. That's why we have computers and videos. If you have a buyer consultation this week, go in and do 2 practice buyer consultations. Send them to me. I'll look at them. I will lovingly critique them, right? Because if we do that, then we'll show up better, and that will be one of our strong suits. Closing. In sales, we have to close. What did they say? Coffee is for closers. Many of us, this right here is one of our Achilles heels, right? We're good at presenting. We are fantastic at building trust and rapport. We will come in and identify the needs. We'll handle the objections, and then we sit there and we do this. And we wait, and we wait, and the other person later says, oh, well, no, we decided to list with them. Oh, no, I found the house 3 months ago. And you're like, well, hey, I was waiting for you to call me. Well, you never asked me to sign a buyer agreement. You never asked me to sign the marketing agreement. We have to get good at asking for action. You have to be comfortable at asking for action. And why would you be comfortable? Because you believe that your skills, your service is a benefit to the individuals that you'll be working with. I just tell everyone I'm easy to find if you're looking for the best. And the reason it's so easy for me to pitch and to ask people to buy or hire me is because I just believe that I'm really good, and that if they don't hire me, they're at a disservice. I wholeheartedly believe that. Now I can ask for action. I can close. And then finally, even in all of this, getting resales and referrals. So that's why I'm asking, or why I mentioned that we want to ask our our prospects, our customers, and our clients to take action. Maybe when you heard that, you were thinking, well, I think he's wrong. Why would we have to ask a client to take action if they're already a client of ours? That means they've already done some business. I'm thinking resale, repeat, and referral. Okay, we want to identify those individuals that say, hey, I like you, know you, trust you so much. I did it one time with you. It was the experience was so spectacular. I want to experience that again. So now, in these 7, I do believe, we have to ask, where are we weak and where are we strong? Where in this process right here do we need to improve our skills? Are we great at building trust but horrible at asking to buy? Are we fantastic at asking people to buy but we're horrible at building trust? Right? And this is where I know we talked about the ratios, conversion ratios, but now we go in and we really have to dive in and understand our business and say, well, do I have a system? Do I have a checklist that helps me identify the needs of the individuals that I work with? If not, that might be one of those easy things that you can work on, that you can tweak so that your business picks up. And so ultimately, here's our goal. Our goal, I would encourage you for this week, our action item, our homework, look at this piece right here, at this relationship selling matrix. Are you building trust, identifying the needs accurately, presenting or consulting the service, and then asking them to buy, asking them to hire and pay you? If you are not, then this means we are going to be leaving a lot of opportunities on the table. I'm going to encourage you all as well to go to these websites that I'm going to send to you for the DISC personality, Myers-Briggs, and then that 16 personalities. Once we find out who we are, what our strong suits are, where we might be weaker in some areas, or just what our natural tendencies are, I believe that it's going to help you. And then once you know who you are, you can then accurately identify how to work with individuals, and you'll know who you're going to be easiest to work with. So there are some who are just like me, the D and the I personalities. We are very matter of fact. We're going to talk fast, trying to get deals done quickly. When I'm working with different personalities, I have to slow down. I have to change my tone. I have to dress differently, right? If I'm meeting with an S or a C and I have my logo plastered all over myself, they're going to be like, this guy is egotistical. I don't want to work with him. All right, so we have to know all of that stuff because it's going to make a big difference. Most importantly, as always, this is what we must do to have more sales and more success. We have to turn thoughts into action. I gave you all what I would love for us to focus on this week, this matrix here and the personality. But maybe you're not there yet. Maybe you're still trying to figure out what your reason is or what your niche is. I'm going to encourage you, figure out something, decide and act, because as we saw on the other side of the board, the winning edge is not about intelligence. It is not about hard work. I believe the winning edge, while it talks about building friendly relationships, I believe that the winning edge has more to do with taking action consistently than anything else. And so if you continue to show up here and implement and execute the things that we are covering on these World Renowned Wednesdays, I do know that you're going to win because it is a law. And the law, the principle, does not care who implements it or who ignores it. It's going to reward and give consequences to all individuals equally. So I hope that you all are picking up some stuff. We have 2 more Wednesdays left, if I am not mistaken. So we're going to be here next week and the week after. So the 24th and the 31st. The 24th and the 31st, we're going to be doing World Renowned Wednesdays. After we get those done, that's it for this type of session. That's it for these types of sessions. We'll figure out what we're going to do next. I have some additional information, some content that I'm going to be sharing with you all so that you all can keep the momentum going. Remember, it's summertime. The reason we are doing this during the summer is because most of our competitors and colleagues, they are sleeping. They're drinking Mai Tais on the beach. They're relaxing. They've kicked their feet up. They're saying, we'll worry about the fall when the fall comes. In our business, we know that now is the time that we make our income 2 months, 3 months down the line, right? We have to do the right activities right now. We have to plant the seeds now so that we can water and then harvest in the future. So I want to thank you all for hanging out with me yet again. I want to encourage you all, continue to come here, replay the videos over and over, slow them down if you need to, pause them so that you actually can implement some of the activities. And then as always, I'll put the link for my calendar in there. So if you all want to hang out with me one-on-one, maybe ask some questions that you don't feel comfortable asking here on the video or in person, I would love to answer those questions for you. And the reason I'm doing this is because I believe that each and every one of us has something in us that the world needs. And so I want to encourage you all with that. And before I go, I want to remind you of the most important thing, and that is that I love you, God loves you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And until the next time I see you or you see me, don't be average, be world renowned. Peace.